office, right? I'm with a group called Cushman, and I'm gonna do a little commercial on kind of who I am and you know what we do, so you kind of understand who you're speaking to. But you know, normally we'd have a Cushman office. What happened is our whole transaction team moved to Cushman Wakefield recently, and Cushman wasn't sitting on office space for a dozen people, so we're in these spaces temporarily. So trying to make it as homey as possible, but I can assure you that were this a Cushman office, you'd be dealing with a little more first-class environment. We wouldn't have a coffee problem, probably better snacks, but we're doing our best.
It's okay for today.
So we consider ourselves a first-class organization, and we probably have a better conference room. The view from the other one's fantastic. We'll wait till it gets a little dark. We'll probably take a little break and pop over there, and I'll point out a few projects that are underway that you guys should know about. So, a couple quick questions. And you know, your name again? Harold. Yeah. And Chris. At any given moment, why don't you guys pop out and make sure no one's stuck in the lobby, right? Because that's possible this time of night, right? That they could not know where to go. So real quick, you guys are all getting masters in real estate, right? Is it a general real estate program or is it a real estate development program?
Real estate development.
It's real estate development, okay. And you guys are second year. What have you done? What's some of the curriculum you've had already?
I just started like last week.
So you just started last week. Okay, so you're a rookie. So does anyone even know your name?
I know it.
Okay.
I know it, I can't say it.
Okay. I got it down here, Andreja. So everyone knew Andreja, okay? He's a weekend, okay? So, what about?
Real estate investment, real estate marketing, finance, land use, zoning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys know what an NOI is,
Right.
right? You know what a cap rate is. Okay, so you have a basic understanding of how real estate's valued, right? You know, the way I think about it, when I'm driving down the street, when I learned what NOI was, okay, and how, you know, basically when I learned what NOI and cap rate was, I started looking at every street as like a grocery store aisle, right? Like it was, and I worked in a grocery store, so maybe that's what did the analogy. So all of a sudden I started thinking like, hey, wait, you know, you walk down and you get the cookies and the soap and everything's got a price on it, right? And it was fascinating to me that I could drive down a street and every one of these buildings actually had a value to it, right? And start conceptually thinking like, well, at some level, every one of these buildings is for sale and can be bought, right? And you can almost like put a price tag on them. At least there was a formula to do so, right? Now real estate's an inefficient market, so motivations of buyers and motivations of sellers and timing and fluidity and, you know, it's an illiquid asset, right? But the idea that you know, hey, cap rate, that there's a scientific way of kind of valuing this stuff, okay, fascinating. So it's good you guys know that. So you guys kind of work through pro formas, you know, your basic land use sense. Now, is the curriculum that Frederick, I got the Rick part. And I'm gonna struggle through this, guys. So, by the way, my name is Troy Ballard. That one, you guys have one name to remember. I got more to remember than I will. I'll fail at this, okay? So is the curriculum that kind of Frederick laid out, is that pretty indicative of where you guys are all at in the process? Okay, and undergraduate degrees, how many were a business or business type undergrad degree? Your degree was?
Management.
Management too?
too.
Management?
Yeah.
Finance?
Marketing.
Marketing? What were the other undergraduate degrees in?
I'm an architect.
You're an architect, oh,
I
congratulations.
work for, my client is Terry.
Harry Posen,
That's why
okay,
it's
good. Yeah, so the good thing about us being on this executive suite office is that there's a bunch of professionals all on the board. You know, we're kind of all mixed together. Typically, we'd be isolated into just our company and our stuff, which has its own benefits, but this has some benefits too. By the way, my degree's in architecture as well, but I went right to organ development. Some of the other undergraduate degrees, I don't have to get everybody, but
Economics.
economics, that's a business degree, pretty much, isn't it?
It's actually not in the business school.
Okay.
Civil engineering.
Civil engineering, okay. Marketing, that's kind of business too. Fred?
Real estate,
You're a real estate guy.
yeah.
So your undergrad's in real estate?
My undergrad in real estate and the master's in management and then the PhD in land use planning.
Okay, wow, that's impressive. So, and what's your role in the equation here?
I'm
so I understand it.
the director of the program.
Got it, okay. So if I screw this up, then.
It's all your fault.
Well, there's already some extra credit for these two here. Really, just so you know, like the conference room was being used prior to this, and they finished up after the staff left. So we got a little cleanup to do to be in this room. We need to be in this room because I got a little PowerPoint presentation. So, where are we on time? Why don't you pop out and see if maybe they're there. Perfect. Mark, I know from, I sit on the advisory board at the University of Miami School of Real Estate, which is a pretty new program. That's where I went to school, studied architecture, and figured out pretty quickly that architects didn't do what I thought they did. You know, I thought architects made decisions about the built environment, and really what architects do is articulate the box that the client tells them to do, okay? There's definitely some creative problem solving in the mix for architects, but I wasn't gonna go out and be Frank Lloyd Wright or, you know, Ian Pei or something like that. There was a lot more talent in the room, frankly, than me. So I started having a strong interest in development and management in general and business. I also was a big believer in good design, especially from an urban standpoint. University of Miami's School of Architecture program is heavy in urbanism. So kind of how the city fits together and like the planning background, I think you'll probably echo or agree with my comments that, you know, is really, from my perspective, more important how the city comes together. Because if you look at great cities like Rome or Paris or, you know, any number, right, Amsterdam, there's bad buildings in those cities. There's bad architecture in those cities. But it doesn't ruin the city because they've got a good urban fabric, okay? So from my perspective, that was an important part of the development equation that was being ignored. And I kind of felt like more architects needed to go into development, needed to go into politics, needed to go into law, needed to go into other elements that influence the development patterns and development programs. So my course was to go into development, and I went to work for Related Group of Florida right out of school. So there I was look, in development, you're a project manager. I don't care what your title is, okay? Development is a project management intensive business, okay? And, latecomer. It's all right, don't worry, we haven't done anything critical yet. You are?
Chelsea Rivera.
Chelsea, nice to meet you, Chelsea. Okay, so you're here. So we're still waiting on Linda and Alexandra, right? Has anyone heard from them, by the way? Did anyone know them or send them a text? Okay.
Oh, you got Alex.
You don't have to, but if anyone can shoot them a text and just kind of get a sense of where they're at or they lost, you know, give them a call, make sure they're here. Right, we're a community, you gotta stick together. Important part of this equation, like you guys networking, and I'll touch on some of this. So anyway, some of my history. So I studied architecture and then went right to work in development because it was a career path that interested me more. And again, development's a very project management heavy business, right? So it kind of doesn't matter what your title is, you're a project manager until you achieve the level of, you know, a George Perez or, you know, an Agardu Fortuna or something like that, where you truly sit atop an organization that's executing multiple developments. Then you're probably looking at it in a more macro perspective. But even those guys get in the weeds, guarantee it. You know, I worked with George, and trust me, George would go from 20,000 feet to 200 feet in a nanosecond and be focused on the details of the project. You know, what's going on with that change order? You know, why are we doing it this way? How come you chose that tile? You know, so I was with Related for a couple of years, and they're like dog years at Related. It's a great environment, but it's something to understand as you guys kind of move through your career that, you know, the developer really is kind of the symphony conductor, right? You don't have to be an expert at everything. In fact, you're never going to know as much as your contractor knows about building a building, or your land use attorney knows about the law, or your accountant knows about you know, the books, or your planner knows about planning. Okay, so there's a number of hats that the developer has to wear, but really they have to make sure everything all comes together in a good fashion, right? So, all this kind of new to you, or is any of this stuff you all know?
Yeah.
Stuff you all know, okay. Then we're not that long about that. So, here's what I want to get done tonight. I want to give you a sense of kind of who I am, and there are some reasons behind that, some specific reasons behind that. And then I want to take a little bit of time and you know, Mark said, hey, look, we got X number of hours to fill, and you can kind of like do what you want. One of the lectures, I occasionally guest lecture at University of Miami, and one of the things I do for those students is talk. They have a mentoring program, and I usually am one of the first guest lecturers that they have, and I give them some tips on how to deal with mentors and, you know, how to kind of make the most out of the presentation or the mentorship program. So I want to kind of take a couple minutes with you guys and give you some tips on dealing with high-level real estate professionals in general, okay? So we'll kind of rifle through that for a little bit, and then we're going to touch base on the Wynwood project, which, as I understand, you guys are all a little bit familiar with. except for you were just here last week, so you don't know what we're talking about, right? Okay. Did you just get in country, or you've been here for a while?
I just won't get, from here,
Just this week?
last week.
When did the semester start?
Last week.
Last week, okay. Oh, really? So you guys are just brand new in the class? I mean, brand, you really just started the new semester? Okay. And are you guys all taking the same classes, or it's a mixed?
Everybody at different levels, so.
How big is the school?
We've got about 36 students.
36 students in the graduate program, and it's a 2-year,
It can be a year, it can be 2 years, depending on how long they choose to take,
so you're graduating 20 a year, give or take?
roughly.
Okay. Alright, so, let's get started, even though, can I get some water? Yeah. Thanks. Alright, so, like I said, I modified some slides here, and here's what I'm thinking this is probably gonna take a half an hour, some dialogue, you know, I'm gonna have you guys out of here early tonight. It's, I guess usually you're 4 hours? No way we're going that long. Okay. So, if I can figure out how to get this, then I'll get some slides up here. Maybe I'll have to get James back in. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so, by the way, someone here works at Styles, right? Who works at Styles? You work at Styles? What was your name again?
Dustin?
What do you do for Styles?
I'm a broker.
You're a broker, okay, and then on the retail side? Or primarily what you guys do?
Now, primarily office industrial, was CB for 7-8 years.
Oh, you're a CB for 7 years, okay, so you get what we do. I'm gonna give a commercial in case somebody feels offended.
Well, you guys post all the talent over there, you know?
Recently, yes, we did. Oh, no, let's see, it's this one here. Presentation. All right, how do I make this full screen? Uh-oh,
Bottom,
where?
bottom left.
Bottom left. Here's
Yeah.
somebody do this.
Right.
Make this full screen so it's big.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so, dealing with high-level real estate professionals. Okay, important thing. So I want to, like I said, I want to give you guys some tips and kind of strategies, and I'm even going to give you guys a test. And if you guys don't do well on it, then I'm probably going to give the results to Mark. And if you do well on it, then I'm going to tell him how great you guys are. Okay, so want to go through kind of, you know, this is what I want to achieve today. You know, who am I, and why should you listen to me? Listen, what do you guys are paying for this school, right? Not cheap. And you're giving up a work career, right? Who's done the math? What's it cost you to go to school for 2 years, including what you give up? A couple $100,000, right? Listen, your time's valuable. Okay, so I am going to take a couple minutes to kind of qualify who the hell I am, why you should be listening to me. And if anyone wants to get up and leave, feel free. Okay, and frankly, it's something you should kind of be in the practice of, right? Like, who am I talking to? Why am I talking to them? Look, as you go through your careers, you're going to find that you're constantly measuring your time, you know. And so, at the same time, you don't want to be brutal and calculated about it, because we're all people, and gratitude's important, and you know, people are important, and you never know when there's someone you're talking to that you don't think is a big deal turns out to be someone that maybe controls the work that you do. Or it's the secretary that you were nice to that tells the boss, oh, that was a great person, they gave it, you know, we really liked it, they were very kind, and you know, the boss is going, hey, that was, you know, they gave a good presentation, let's give them the work, okay? So, so we'll go quickly some tips, strategies for success, and then we're gonna get right into the Thor Win-Win project, which we were talking about, okay? So, who am I? Why should you listen? This is not an ego slide. This is an important thing, okay? You guys and everybody needs to be comfortable about talking about yourself. Okay, this is important, right? You guys we just did the math. It's a couple $100,000 you guys are spending going to school. You've all got undergraduate degrees. Who's working? Who's already working? So Styles, you were 7 years of CB. That's a long, so you got a real career that you put on sidetrack to do this.
Related and then now automation.
What are you doing related?
Project manager.
Excellent. For who? Who do you work for?
I used to, now I'm working for automation.
Got it. Who did
Okay.
you work for related, just because I know those guys?
Luis Castellan.
Lewis, I don't know Lewis.
Albert Milo.
Okay, on the affordable?
Yep.
That's what you guys did.
Mm-hmm.
Some other hands I saw? Who else works? You're an architect, you told me.
Yes, I told him.
Are you a licensed architect?
Yes.
Wow, so you did a lot of tests and stuff like that, so, what else?
I don't,
I'm Marcus Milchap.
Okay, oh, so you're a broker too?
I'm an analyst.
Got it, okay, what do you do there? I mean, what
I
asset class?
work,
Who do you work
retail. I'm Mark Strauss,
Strauss, Mark Strauss,
Fort Lauderdale office.
but retail's not my asset class, so, I've done some issues, but it's not my core asset class, we're really multifamily guys, we'll get into that. So, again, you guys get used to talking about yourself, it's okay, who's shy? Raise your hand, who's a little shy, are you a little shy? A little shy? Get over it, okay? In the kindest possible way, listen, it's an important skill. You know, look, it's my job to talk about what we do, because we gotta go out and win business, right? So if we're not talking about what we do, then we're gonna starve, okay? So even if you're an analyst, it's not your job to go out and win the business, but you probably don't wanna be an analyst forever, right? And why not? You can talk about what you do, and you never know when that's gonna lead to some business or some connections or some networking, right? So, I put this up there because it is important to learn to talk about yourself and what you do. So, a little bit about Cushman Wakefield. So, who, you definitely do, and you definitely do. Who's got a, do we collectively have a sense of the brokerage business and what it kind of entails? Let's have you do it.
Yeah, you just fight with people all day. We can take a haircut at the end.
That's what I got.
Well, listen, so here's the thing, right? Everyone's lived in a house or something thereof, right? When you go to sell a house, you hand it to a broker or real estate agent, right? That real estate agent does some open houses. What else do? They help you value it, right? They probably put it on MLS, right? Their job is to go out and find buyers, right? Why do they do that instead of you doing it?
Because they have the database, they have the information, they're professionals.
Right, and they've got the time, right? You're outsourcing that function that you maybe aren't an expert at performing,
Sure.
right? Maybe they're better at talking to people and, you know, kind of selling the attributes of the project. So listen, in the commercial real estate world, brokers do the same thing. It just happens at a completely different level, right? Because we've got to understand the numbers, because people are making business decisions to buy these assets or lease, right? And so we tend to have a room of analysts, like, your name again?
Jordan.
Like Jordan, okay? So a guy like Jordan's gonna crunch the numbers and help us kind of come up with what these numbers are. So clients are reaching out to us because they're in the business of owning real estate, okay? They're not necessarily in the business of selling real estate. So we become their advisor and their, you know, kind of confidant, if you will, in terms of, you know, helping them value their assets. Is it the right time to sell? Is it not the right time to sell? What is the market doing? What is it not doing? So, because everyone that pretty much owns real estate is probably in the business to what?
Money.
Make money, right. Don't ever forget that. So you guys are all in a real estate development program because you wanna be developers?
Investors of some sort or another, yeah.
Okay.
Stop
You're ahead of the
around
game.
them,
Who thinks they wanna be George Perez? Okay. Or Edgardo Di Fortuna, or name another developer for me.
Desert, Yield Desert.
Who?
Yield Desert.
Gil Deezer, yes.
Yeah, Desert.
Yeah, desert, yeah, you're right, I think it was the desert.
Sort of middleman.
You wanna build the Ferrari tower, right?
The
You know?
Porsche, yeah.
So you're on the mark that no matter what your aspirations are, there's a much greater likelihood that most everybody here is gonna play a role in the development business. Development is a really big word, right? To take unentitled land, entitle it, plan it, capitalize it, okay? Build it, lease it up, operate it, and then sell it. That's a huge scope of business that happens. And most of us in the business don't do all of that. In fact, George Perez doesn't even do all of that. He generally doesn't buy unentitled land, so he cuts off that first part of it and says, I'd rather pay market pricing for the land when it's done than to take the entitlement risk. So, it's highly likely that, like, you're gonna find a toehold in the business and end up having a little play one part, you're gonna wear one hat, which is kind of what I do, right? I was with a developer doing kind of more of the process, and now I just do a segment of the process. So, so Cushman Wakefield helps people find buyers effectively. What we do is we broker properties. We help buyers and sellers find each other. So, as a global entity, we're 43,000 employees, we have offices all over the world, we do a whole bunch of stuff that I don't really engage in because we're a global enterprise and I'm focused on the segment of my business. So what is my business? So I'm part of a 4-person team of producers, that's about a 12-person team that includes our analysts and our marketing people and our staff. And our team focuses primarily, we do 3 things. We sell apartment buildings. Okay, so usually institutionally sized apartment buildings primarily, but Callum on our team actually does some of the smaller properties. So who lives in an apartment building right now? How many units are in your building?
50.
50?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
You know, is it big property, small property?
It's a decent size, probably like medium size, I would say, I guess.
Medium sized. Is it 20 units or
No, it's more than that.
200 units?
Let's go with that.
200?
I mean, it's pretty,
I would consider 200.
it's pretty much.
I would consider 200 on the smaller end of the institutionally sized deal. Who lives in a big complex? Who lives in a 300 units or 200 plus units? Where do you live?
Reveal, 330 units or so.
We're here.
In Brickell.
Oh, in Brickell, okay, yeah, so 330 units. Okay, so basically developers go out and they build apartment buildings and we sell them for them. You know, you work with Style. Style's built a big project down the street, Ombre. Beautiful building. I moved into it actually. That one's 254 units. 52. You haven't confused, right? Deal merge.
You get management too?
No.
No management.
We don't do management in residential projects, but the company does management of office and industrial properties, and they do some advisory services for companies with real estate portfolios. Imagine you're General Motors, okay, and I'm just picking that out of a hat. General Motors owns a lot of real estate, but they're not a real estate company. So General Motors will probably have a real estate division that helps them make decisions on what to lease, what not to lease, what to pay, what not to pay. And a lot of times they'll engage a company like ours to provide advisory services or maybe even handle their leasing or something like that, or a Style. Style's a great organization and probably does some of that stuff as well.
You guys do high end or medium?
So what we do is sell apartment buildings, and usually they're institutionally scaled, so kind of the 200 plus units and up to, right now we're selling a deal that's 700 units in Pembroke Pines. So those deals are generally 20 million to 165 million is the 700 unit property will land about that. So we sell apartment buildings, just like somebody would sell your home, they hire us to sell the apartment buildings, right? But they don't hire us because we have a gold jacket and Century 21 behind our name. They hire us because we're part of a big global enterprise, so we can find the buyers. And because we know our business, we know the market, we know who the buyers are, who the sellers are, we know what the capital markets are doing, so we're really plugged into that. And we've got a room full of analysts that help us crunch those numbers, and also marketing people that help us put the package together. And I'll show you actually some packages. So you guys have all looked at the Thor Winwood deal, right? So you've seen that. Here's another site that we're selling, kind of on that. Kind of just page through those as we go through the presentation here. This one's for an income property that we sold down toward Dadeland, and let's see the cover side. I think that's all I got. And another income side. So you can kind of page through these as we work through the presentation today. By the way, I think I forgot to mention the other slide. Raise your hand at any time. Ask me a question. I prefer to have some dialogue with you guys. Okay, you've got this little window of time with me, and I want you to get something out of it. I've sat where you sat, so I don't need to get anything out of that. Okay? You had a question? Are you sure? You look like you had a question.
I don't, but I will.
Okay. So we sell apartment buildings, we sell land, okay? Generally for development, right? People buy land, so they want to develop on it, and that encompasses mixed use and largely multifamily centric land, which could be condos, or residential centric land, which could be condos. Could be mixed use sites, because mixed use sites have a large component of multifamily generally. But here's the thing, we'd be selling a site downtown, like Thor, Winwood, and we think it's a residential deal, and someone comes along and says, I want to build a hotel. So we end up selling a hotel site. The other thing we do is we raise equity generally for institutionally scaled residential projects as well, mostly apartment buildings. Who knows what that means? If I say we raise equity, am I done with that statement? Can I move on, or should I do some explaining? What does it mean?
Syndicating investors?
Syndicating investors. Not exactly.
I was gonna say, you find the money for the building.
Exactly what we do. We find the money for the building. So Go ahead.
But you raise the money, but you also do like construction loans and go for the grants and everything.
We do have a separate team that handles financing, and they'll finance the buildings, they'll help source debt for income acquisitions and for construction acquisitions. And then we work kind of closely with them on the equity side. So when we raise the equity, what happens is, so let's say you're gonna develop a project, it's $100 million in total project costs. So what's the debt gonna be?
30 equity, 70 debt.
If you're lucky right now.
If you're lucky right now.
But you're right, so let's take that, so let's do 60.
Alright.
There's a lot of round number, and that's more conservative. Right now, debt in these transactions, we're about 65% building an apartment building, but let's say it's 60%, let's say we're conservative. So where's the $40 million come from?
Investors.
Comes from investors.
Hedge fund.
Funds.
Right, it's generally not the developer that's putting it up, right? Developers like to use other people's money, so the developers.
OPM, yeah. OPM.
Exactly, so the developers get a developing building, they're good at finding the opportunities, executing the opportunities, they possess that skill, but then the equity is a group that's usually sitting on a mountain of cash from various sources, whether it's an insurance fund, or whether it's an endowment fund, or whatever. They've got lots of capital, but not on-the-ground experience, and the developer's got on-the-ground experience and probably wants the capital. So we help connect those two groups, okay? Lots of developers like an Alliance or a Mill Creek or some of the top multifamily developers, for example, they have their kind of stable of equity groups they go to over and over again, but sometimes those groups don't wanna do it, and they hire us to find new capital groups for them. So that's what we do. So a couple projects that we've been engaged in, this is a 378 unit apartment project in Boca Raton that we sold the land on. And I'm gonna focus more on the land types, because I know you guys are interested in development. So, this is a project that we sold the land on. Actually, my business partner, Robert, who heads our team, he sold it once, and then I sold it before I joined the team. And let me know that out too. I actually just joined Cushman & Wakefield about 3 months ago. And as you mentioned, the whole transaction group that I'm with came from CBRE over to Cushman & Wakefield, and then I joined them at Cushman & Wakefield. So you wanted to see my name on some of these books because they were done kind of prior to my involvement. Who can name the top 5 brokerages in the country?
CD, JLL, Cushman.
NAI.
Not you, you know.
NAI.
They're, I don't know, they're probably
Franchise.
top 10, yeah,
Top.
maybe top 20,
Yeah.
you know.
Newmark.
Newmark's up there, you got them all, but you're in the business, you know, don't get extra credit. Yeah, look, these are all names you guys should know, okay? You should know, you should learn and then probably forget. CB, yeah, listen, CB, JLL, Cushman & Wakefield, you know, these are all, look, cause here's why. The biggest assets and the biggest transactions in the market are always gonna happen with a major advisor, or a major group. So, depending on what you guys wanna do and what scale of development you wanna have, but you're probably gonna have brokers in the mix at some point, even if you're just using them to get information for you know, which we do a lot, okay? So this is a property we sold in Boca. This is a site I sold in Boynton Beach. It's gonna be 350 units. It's being executed currently by a group called RAM, which is short for retail and multifamily. They're a Palm Beach Gardens-based group, and that does both development and owns deals. This is a site I sold in downtown Brickell, right across the street from Brickell City Center, which is being executed by a company.
There was a
called Solomon.
Venezuelan restaurant there.
Pardon me?
There was a Venezuelan restaurant there, El Arepazo. I remember that place. Prior to that one,
Maybe there was, you know,
they go bankrupt.
there was a parking. That was a circular parking
Yeah.
lot actually. The access to the parking for the mirror building was actually right there. And so they demolished the ramp, and then this building is actually going to share an access ramp with the office building. So this deal has some complexities. I don't remember a restaurant being there. I don't think it was retail.
And
That
that
might
one,
be-
and
That
that.
might be next door.
Yeah, next door.
Yeah, that might be this
that
one.
Yeah.
So this is the site we sold. We're
And
talking about that one.
next one, no,
Right.
that one.
This is this is Brickell City Center.
And there, the small one.
This is related to the
Ah,
other.
that's.
And this is the site that we sold this on.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's okay, look, it's a, it's a dense downtown environment. So here's some deals that, this one you're intimately familiar with, here's another site that we worked on just recently, it's actually out the back window. So I think you guys get the sense of what we're doing. Why is that important? Is it because we wanna have power? No. Why is it important to you guys and understanding who the brokers are and why they're important contacts for you? It's because we know people, right? All the people that do this stuff kind of make decisions, and they're all decision makers making these decisions, right? So as a young person, just kind of a sense of, you know, again, qualifying who I am, why I'm giving you some information, know that. But also, look, a broker's a resource, right? We're generally tapped into the market, we have market information. Frankly, if I'm interested in leasing and what the office market's doing, I'm gonna call him, and probably he's gonna call me and find out what's going on in the multifamily space, right? Because we're gonna know what's happening in our business, and he's gonna know what's happening in his business, so we're constantly sharing information in the business, important thing to understand. So, back to the theme of dealing with kind of professionals. This one kind of slide hold over, so don't be intimidated, right? As you start dealing with professionals out there, you know, it's common to have this. Like, I sit on the board, we ran into Harry Posen. How many of you guys know Harry Posen? He sits on your board? Okay. I can tell you, when I sit in the board meeting for the University of Miami Real Estate Board, I feel like that sometimes. Okay? Definitely. So, when you're dealing with, you know, professionals, and as you start to engage in that more frequently, it's okay. You know, that's what you're getting, right? Sometimes you feel like you're in a room like this. I want you guys to feel like you're in a room like that. Okay? Everybody's human. Okay? Everybody's human. Okay? Demystify. Listen, you deal with some top professionals, that's great. Don't forget, they're a person too, they were a young person too, right? So it's very important that you relax, okay? As you deal with your board and the people you start to engage with, relax. Okay, so now let's take a test. Everyone has a who doesn't have a smartphone? Everyone take your smartphone out. Pull out your email program. Send me an email. I want the subject line to say test, and you're taking the test too. Your smartphone? Fred's gonna take the test too. Probably on time, good. You get points for speed, so whoever comes in first gets a little bonus points here.
Just say this.
Just everyone, send me an email that says test as fast as you can.
Done.
Let me see, make sure some of these emails are starting to come through. Yeah, they're starting to come through. One, two.
She said there's 2 seconds before that.
Done? Done? Oh, never mind. Down here. Okay. So, moving on with some tips and thoughts about kind of your guys engaging and interacting with professionals kind of at this stage in your career. Play the student card. Okay? When you reach out to somebody now, or you're talking to a professional now, you have this brief opportunity where you guys are students, okay? And the professionals out there are probably gonna be more receptive and willing to talk to you because they're not doing the math in their head. Why am I talking to you? I got 20 other things to do. What do you want from me? Are you gonna ask me for business? Do I want your business? You know, so everybody's busy, right? Like as a broker, what do you got? You got your time, right? That's all you got is your time and your expertise and your name and integrity, okay? But your time is really what you're selling. So, but while you're a student, right? If you call me and say, hey, I got a question for you, I'm not thinking to myself, this person calls me all the time and asks for questions and then they never give me any business. Okay, what are they doing for me? The minute you've got a business card, that equation changes. Right?
You're either competition or you're a target.
Yeah,
or
you're either competition or you're business that I want to do or you're a drain on my time with no possible business possibilities there. Or you're potentially somebody that I'm planting seeds that maybe 10 years from now, that relationship might matter, or maybe they're gonna connect me to me, but there's a good possibility they won't, okay? But not when you're a student. So take advantage of it, play the student part, okay? And then, this one's really more the mentorship thing, but, and I don't know if you guys are Modern Family fans, but, you know, have a plan, okay? When you're talking to, you know, if you get a meeting with somebody, or you start interacting with somebody, I'd say, take some time, think about it, step away. Look, in the age of the internet, you can probably find out a little bit about anybody you're gonna meet with, okay? My bio's on the Cushman Wakefield website, right? Like, some of what I covered tonight, you guys could have told me about myself if you took the time to do a little homework, okay? So I recommend that you do and kind of have some thoughts about what it is you're trying to achieve with the meeting you get, and follow up. I don't know if I have a slide here on follow up, but definitely do that. And don't forget, your career is gonna do this. You know, whatever you think it is you're gonna do, there's a probably unlikely that, you know, very few careers go in a straight line, okay? So I always say welcome it. You know, you never know how your career is gonna change and move, and that's why you don't wanna burn any bridges. That's why all your relationships with work matter, okay? A couple more things here, and then we're gonna move to the project. As you deal with professionals and kind of gather mentors, and this is a very important thing, you wanna put things in context, okay? What your mentor and what some of these professionals can see when you're getting guidance from them or getting advice from them, is they're gonna see things in a context that maybe you're not gonna see, right? You might feel like you're in the middle of that storm, and they might see that, hey, that's gonna last about that long, okay? Or you might feel like you might not know you're right next to it and it's coming for you, okay? So put things in context. So back to jobs, who's done some work? You're working, right? Okay, what was it you're doing again?
I'm in residential brokerage.
You're in residential brokerage, so you sell homes?
Yes.
Okay, you wanna keep doing that?
Yes.
You don't wanna keep doing that, okay? You're doing that now while you get through school, but you get the basic process, okay? So, practice putting things in context, okay? Actually, that is tremendous experience for moving into commercial real estate.
Or moving into development.
Moving into development, right, commercial real estate in general, right? Because you're doing market research, right? You're valuing properties, at least conceptually, right? You're putting together marketing plans, right? So practice, one second, practice thinking about what you do and how you can apply that in your next job, okay? Very important, because I guarantee you, whatever job you have is part of somebody else's business plan, okay? Even if you work at Starbucks, anybody work at Starbucks? No one's been a barista? Anybody fast food? I work in a fast food joint, so does anyone have a lower quality job than that?
Line cook, but yes.
Line cook, okay, good, me and you. No, we're both
Brokers, yeah, I mean, go to
Exactly.
sales if you can't do anything else.
Right. So listen, but even if you're a line cook, okay, or working in a fast food joint, you're part of somebody else's business plan, okay? So if all you're doing is, you know, checking groceries, beep, 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 and you're not thinking a little bit and engaging your brain and saying, hey, how much groceries did I check out today? How many checkers are we? If I sold $10,000 worth of groceries and there's 20 checkers, then we generated $200,000 in business today. I wonder what our cost of goods were, right? You can always ask more questions. You can always put things in context, okay? So that when you're sitting in a meeting or you're sitting in an interview or you're sitting with somebody else and maybe the synergies aren't perfect in terms of this is what we do and this is what they do, find the commonalities, okay? Practice thinking about that. And that's an important thing too, because you deal with your mentors or your, you know, and I say, go out and find mentors, groom your own mentors, okay, if you don't have a mentorship program in the school. Because one of the things they're gonna do is they're gonna see the context of your career in a different way, okay? So, what else we have here? Etiquette, very important. Do I even have to explain this one? Underdress, overdress. You get a good meeting? Underdress or overdress? Overdress, right? You can't go wrong. Okay? Send thank yous. Okay? Emails. So, let's look at your test results. I'm very curious. You guys are all second year?
Just about.
Dustin, fail.
I just put my card in there.
Chantel, fail. Sam Lichtenstein. Who's Sam? Oh, maybe this is not. That could be another email. This doesn't say test.
Fail.
Sam, who sent me an email,
He passed?
he got an A. Fred, fail. Chelsea, fail. What am I looking for? You got it. And I'm sorry, I forget your name, and yours is the name I remember. Dustin. Where'd you go, Dustin? Did you fail too?
You said I did.
Yeah,
Was
so,
this
okay,
the,
yeah, got
add my
it.
contact, is that what you were going
Aaron,
for?
that's what I'm going for, okay? Listen, guys, you are gonna miss 100% of the phone calls that don't get made, okay? Dustin talked about the only thing he has to sell is his time. Time is valuable for every executive out there, it's valuable for every real estate professional out there. If I walk out of a meeting and think, hey, you're an architect and you did some work for Harry and I just met someone that wants to build townhomes, and so maybe that's what you do, and I think maybe I should connect you, and I got an email from you, you gotta make it real easy for me to get in touch with you, right? I wanna be able to pull up the email, I wanna push a button, I wanna call, okay? Because I might not have you in my contacts, I might not have gone through that exercise of putting it there. You will miss 100% of the phone calls that don't get made. Make it easy for people to reach you. This is extremely important. Fred, what did you get on this? You failed. You failed. So, listen, this is a common mistake, okay? I can tell you I spend more time tracking down people's, and you, tell me, Dustin, same thing?
All the time.
Is this not the most frustrating thing?
Yeah, but you can't find a phone number.
You can't find a phone
calling
number.
the trust attorney and,
Right.
yeah, it's like.
And here's what's happened. Now you've delivered me a chore, and I don't like chores, okay? Now when it's my job to do chores, I'm gonna do it, okay? If you ask me about a property and you say, call me about this property, then I'll probably figure out how to get to you, okay? Because I represent a client, and the client wants me to chase down all those leads, okay? But if I leave a conference, and I'm thinking of connecting you with somebody that I just talked to that might be interested in your resume, I might not do that chore, okay? And by the way, in your signature block, and this is easy, guys, set up your signature block, okay? Every email, every reply, every device, have your contact information on there. I don't care if you have a job right now, it could say graduate candidate, NOAA Southeastern, or whatever it is, okay? Every email, every device, make it look the same, and include your email in that. How come I need an email when I just sent an email? Because I might take that information and cut and paste it, right? There's a good possibility that if I wanna give your contact information to somebody, okay, that I'm not gonna necessarily CC you on the email, I'm just gonna cut and paste that and say, hey, Joe, you should call, your name again?
Chelsea.
Chelsea, you should call Chelsea, okay? So, make sure your contact information is complete, make sure it comes from every device, every email, okay? I don't know if anyone passed, I mean, obviously I'm not scoring you guys on this, did anyone pass? Anyone think they passed?
Second time around, I think about.
Did you do it after?
Yeah.
And you might have a personal email, look, I get that there's two, you know, look, I'm illustrating the point, right? So, and guys, just so you know, this really happens. I mean, Dustin, you could probably share dozens and dozens of emails. I mean, let me tell you something, so 2.49 acre site, you know what that site is, right? Okay, you guys are gonna look at it later. Like, we're expecting this thing to be in the $55 million range, okay? I'm very interested in the site, please call me. Really? Okay.
With that phone number,
Yeah, and by the way, I think that one had a Gmail account, okay? Which isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, but it's like, you're talking about calling me on a $50 million deal, which means that what's the total size of the development gonna be?
huge.
Right, couple hundred million, right, whatever. So that's your first introduction, like, you're the guy who's gonna do a $200 million deal, with a Gmail account, and that, now maybe, right? Because here's the thing, we are in Miami, where there's a lot of foreign capital and Latin American groups that come in and pop in, so I'm gonna treat everybody like they're George Perez, but they're probably not George Perez, okay? You know, call me regarding this property, you know, Fort Lauderdale. Really? I mean, I could have 5 deals in Fort Lauderdale, you know? I have a possible buyer for this property, send for my iPhone, you know, send me the asking price. And that one definitely had a Gmail address. Listen, guys, we're high-level professionals, we don't just like, yeah, great.
We just drop everything, cause.
Yeah,
some
exactly.
A-hole, came out of the woodwork.
You never know, okay, so, you know, this I wanted you guys to see, you know, my profession in action, real emails in real time. So last, we're getting kind of toward the end here, and then we're getting into Wynwood, so network, very important, you know this. If you guys, while you're in school here, you should know everybody's name, you should share all your contact information, which, if you email them, and it was there, right, that would be an easier task. But right now, you can't do that. So, you know, this is super important. Look, this is a people business, you know. I mean, how many people have you helped get jobs?
A couple.
Right.
I mean,
Why?
it's,
But you're not a recruiter. How's that happen?
Sometimes it's easier to just to help someone than it is to blow them off, because you never know.
Well,
I found referrals from places that I would have never imagined.
absolutely, absolutely. I probably place about 1.5 people a year. You know, so that's just because, you know, in fact, you know, a student like you guys, you know, tracked me down last year. She, you know, wanted to get together, and so I said, fine, we'll get together, we'll have lunch. And she wanted a job, but I didn't have a job for her. But I said, well, you should consider doing this, consider doing this, consider doing this. I'll make a phone call. I connected them, and, you know, 3 months later, she's working for me. You know, so, you know, there's development executives out there that I knew weren't happy at company X, and I said, well, you know, I know company Y is looking for somebody, why don't you connect with them?
And if you do somebody a favor like that, they remember you forever.
Long time, long time. So, you know, look, networking is super important, and people forget that the operative word in networking is work. Okay, it can't always be what's in it for me, right? You'll be thinking, hey, if I can help connect people, if I can help do this, if I can help somebody out a little bit, if you take a little time to think about somebody else and what they need, you'd be surprised how that can, you know, pave the way for you to make, you know, better connections or better decisions, or you never know when that favor you do is gonna come full circle. So, any questions? No? Good, okay. So that was my last slide with the students that I did this a much longer lecture, a little bit longer lecture on, but you know, this is kind of where the students are at, you know. So, any kind of questions as we shift gears? Any thoughts? Any commentary?
Why in particular did you gravitate towards a multifamily product type? You know, I maybe you could speak to specialization for everybody's benefit. I mean,
Well, here's the thing, you know, some of it's dumb luck. So I call it like walking down the buffet line, right? Here's what happens, you go to brunch at the Four Seasons or, you know, someplace nice, and you get a tray, and you get in line, and you start putting food on your plate, right? And the first line is the salad, right? But you don't know, you're just kind of in line, right? You're there for the first time. But what they don't tell you is that the prime rib's over there, and the, you know, cracked, you know, cold shrimp are over there, and you know, the little caviar things are over there, right? You're loading up on the salad like a rookie because you don't know the room, you know? So I think what happens a lot of time in our business is, in every business, is, you know, you kind of take a job out of school and it becomes formative. You know, you get a couple years experience doing X, and now your next natural move is to do something kind of an extension of that. So, you know, look, I actually talked to Styles, or I might have talked to Styles. I think Styles, Butters, and Related were on my target list when I graduated school. And, because I knew they were all local, high-quality developers. And this was back before the internet, so I can do the same kind of research. I'm pretty sure I printed some resumes and kind of dropped them off. I didn't know people. I was coming out of an architecture program. So I wanted to get in development, and I didn't have what you guys have, which is this kind of thing, right? I didn't have somebody who lectured like me, lecturing to you guys, or Harry Posen, you know, anybody to reach out to. But the dean of the school connected me to Related, and I went and interviewed there, and you know, it was a fit, and I pretty much told them, where's my desk, like that was kind of, this is where I want to be. So they were doing big mixed-use projects, so for me that was super exciting because I was coming out of an architecture program that was heavy in urbanism and kind of the belief that I started with and how the city fits together. So at the time, if I'd done a garden deal out in Miramar, I would have wanted to shoot myself, but instead I got to work on City Place right out of the gate, and that became very formative. You know, here's the thing, like the big company name can be huge on your resume, right? I mean, so I actually had my own company for 7 years, and we never had a negative cash flow month. We started in 2006, the worst time to start a business. But we grounded out and had cash flow when a lot of businesses had none. We grew from 3 people to 63 people, most of it property management. management, so not as impressive as it sounds. My partner ultimately bought me out. He had a lot of family capital and wanted to stay. But anyway, so I started my own company. I had my own company. We were a successful company. But when I walk into a meeting and my partner's introducing me, that's Troy. He used to work at Related. You know, so it's massive gold star. So think about that as you guys take your jobs too. You know, you're always weighing what kind of experience am I getting, small company, big company, you know, what I learn versus what I earn versus, you know, versus the resume builder. And there's not a right answer. It's just kind of what you do. How'd you get into?
I mean, I was graduating UF and I worked a couple little sales jobs, like selling internet marketing and that kind of stuff, and I figured out I was pretty good at that. The sales part of it.
Yeah,
But
I sales.
I didn't want to sell little internet marketing, so I just thought it was the biggest thing I could sell.
Right. See, I never envisioned myself in sales at all. As a kid, I couldn't have made phone calls or knocked on people's door I didn't know. And I kind of don't consider myself in sales in some ways because it's more like investment banking what we do in some ways. I mean, the people I'm calling to, you know, buy a $50 million site are pretty sophisticated individuals. They're looking for opportunities like that. I don't feel like I'm forcing anything down their throat. You know, there's a reason that we have their name and contact information. So I don't necessarily feel like I'm not.
It's like used car sales or whatever. It's
Exactly.
the consultative approach. or whatever.
Exactly. And it's business. It's not, you know, I mean, it's the numbers that are gonna dictate it, you know? So, more questions I think you have? No?
No, but I
Oh, no?
yeah.
Tell me, yeah, no, this is open dialogue, how are we doing on time? So we're 7 o'clock, okay? So like I said, I'm gonna get you guys out of here early, so you can take as much more time as you want.
Now, where you're soliciting funds from institutional investors, for your equity card, what percentage is like hedge funds and insurance companies?
Well, that moves with the market a little bit. Did everyone hear the question?
Yeah.
Okay, so that moves with the market, percentage are hedge funds and insurance companies. Well, those are two different classes actually. I would consider those two different classes. And then, so the way equity works is a lot of companies get it themselves. Like if you look at like a national developer, let me do something real quick, and I'm gonna get to your question, but I wanna kind of, so, name a developer.
Donald Trump.
You got the hardest one, you know that, right?
Cal Atlantic.
Who?
Cal Atlantic.
Cal
Atlantic.
Atlantic, what do they do?
Residential.
What kind of residential?
They were,
Downtown Pines. They do like townhomes, single family.
Okay,
Related,
no, you're fine, you took the easy one, man, that's low hanging fruit, like now no one else can.
Atlantic Pacific.
Atlantic Pacific,
Oishi Mana?
yep. Fred, come on,
Could tell us.
there we go.
The Fortuna.
Fortuna,
People's Court.
Panattoni,
I don't know that, what do they do?
industrial.
Industrial, that's what I don't know. Okay. You get a master's in real estate development. We named 10 developers. You bust your chops a little bit. Styles, perfect. You're right, so. It's all right. Guys, you should, does anyone have an interest in who's starting to form an opinion in terms of what direction they wanna go?
I do. I want to move in towards residential development.
It's natural, right? You're selling homes, so selling commercial
And that's the
residential
reason
makes
why
sense.
to pull from that experience.
Okay,
same, I've been working with multifamily and residential.
got it.
asset management.
Asset management at what level? Like, you mean, you wanna sit atop a global fund, or you wanna work for Prudential and, you know, control a $500 million fund, or?
I would say, probably more of like a, syndication, company, private equity.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah,
my
custom spec homes.
Okay. You wanna develop them?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good business if you do it right. A little risky, but, you know, that's a good business. What are you doing to move in that direction? I'm curious.
Build a house on a lot that we got. Start there.
It's the best way to go, yeah.
1.3, 1.4 million.
Okay. that's the cost to build?
No, that's gonna be,
That's the sale?
the sale price, yeah.
Okay.
I'm focusing on shopping centers. My family owns shopping centers, and I'm doing the management part here. And that's why I'm part of my family. And 2 years ago, I opened my own company, which is like we raise equity for buying low-income houses.
Okay.
And we took with the banks. We look for leverage, positive leverage, and buy more houses and
So
flip
build up a
it.
portfolio of single-family houses and the low-income side.
In the low-income side, yeah.
Okay.
That's what.
What's your name again?
Chantel.
Chantel. Any ideas?
Yeah, either city redevelopment or hospitality.
City redevelopment, and what way city redevelopment, what
Like-
part of that role, like with a major developer, like a Swire?
No, with the city,
Or, you know,
like
the
doing
city.
like affordable housing or redeveloping, like kind of
CRE.
Okay.
yeah, like that, yeah.
Sure.
Or hospitality,
hospitality.
that's, no, I'm just curious, that there's a little, those are different?
Yeah, I just like the whole aspect of shaping somebody's experience.
Okay.
Cause I studied abroad a few years ago and I loved it. And
Where?
In Italy.
Where,
Well, the campus was in Arezzo, but we visited different, like Milan and Florence
Nice.
and Rome, which was
I
amazing.
studied in Rome for a semester.
It's
Fantastic.
amazing, I wanna go back.
Fantastic, yeah, absolutely. Who wouldn't there outlive? What about you, Dustin?
I don't know, Troy, I'm still trying to figure out what I wanna be when I grow up.
Got it. Well, that's interesting, I mean, like, you have some substantial brokerage experience with a major platform.
I mean, the way I see it, I mean, coming back to school will help me with what I'm already doing.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah, for her,
yeah,
for
go
sure.
open some doors into other avenues at some point. I mean, the idea of, getting some equity in some deals, you know, whether that's from running
Yeah,
acquisitions
everyone wants
funds.
to invest.
Everybody does, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
on the principal side, right.
You don't have to like bleed it out every.
Yeah, I'm kind of the reverse, cause I was on the development side and on the principal side, and then went into brokerage, so. Which as an aside for me, I found that I liked working on the bigger deals, bigger than I was ever gonna be principal on. And, just like the work in general, you know, just, I enjoy what I do. Generally, because I'm dealing with the decision makers, I'm generally dealing with some pretty smart people. And then rather than handling the whole development project, like grinding it out, like I did at Related, where you're working on 1 or 2 or 3 projects for years at a time, I get to work on it for this long, but still feel like I, you know, kind of contribute to the development process. I believe in a lot of the projects I work on. So, you got a direction yet?
Hotel, resort hotels.
Development of those.
Well, I wanna connect my, my international associate to like EB5 program, cause I did a lot with, international individuals.
So finance.
Yeah.
That was your degree, right? Your undergrad was finance? Okay. Yeah, be careful with EB5, because it's gonna disappear at some point, right?
Right,
You don't need a business plan, that's something that the government changed the laws on,
right.
right? You be careful. And you?
I'm not sure yet of that if I also.
But you just moved here
Yeah,
to kind of explore that.
exactly.
Okay, all right, well, that's good. By the way, you don't have to know, I mean, I'm actually surprised that everyone had an answer, because, you know, I probably didn't have an answer at, actually, I didn't have an answer when I was in school. I mean, I knew I wanted to go into development, but I didn't really know what the hell that meant, because I didn't have classes like this one. So back to your question with equity, it's hard to answer the question, because you have to look at equity as a large market, and no one has, you know, to look at that, we couldn't look at it locally. We'd have to look at it kind of nationally and say, generally, where's the equity coming from? So, you know, I would say that, you know, locally, with multifamily development, which is where my expertise is, and where most of the development has been recently, not condos are a little different. We've seen, Prudential be a large equity player, we've seen MetLife be a large equity player, we've seen, and then a lot of private groups. But Prudential probably did the most deals out of the gate and earliest in the cycle, and they crushed it. They did the old styles, One Plantation, down on 595. And, some really smart guys over there. So, more questions?
So coming from a Marcus and Millichap background, a lot of our deals are like, you know, a few $1 million to 10 or 15. Contrasting that with the larger deals, how do you say no to the smaller deals and kind of target the institutional size deals and like make it kind of work?
Yeah, well, so the way our transaction group approaches it is, we have a guy on our team, Cal Weaver, who focuses on, we call it private clients group. because generally your buyer of a $2 to $10 million deal is different than your buyer of a, you know, $40+ million deal. And so, and we find there's some synergies to work together, there's deals he can work on that we're there, sometimes we're in a zone in the middle, and certainly on the land side as well. So that's how we manage it, but you know, we probably say no to, I mean, frankly, Marcus and Millichap does a great job, some guys over there do a great job at that, kind of $1 to $8 million apartment complexes, right? We do some of those, but Callan focuses on kind of a certain typology of those, and it's the radar, and then some land, and some other things that are kind of higher up the food chain. Our focus, you know, if someone calls me and says, hey, we've got a, you know, 10-unit apartment building and we wanna sell it for $850,000, we just tell them we don't do that. You know, you've gotta kind of focus on what you do best. And for us, that's the bigger apartment deals. You know, that's the bigger apartment deals and the bigger land deals. Equity is really a specialized production line for us. But land, we sell a lot of. Actually, we did the numbers on land, and because I was a part of the land group at my former company that I founded, and had a couple $100 million in sales, and then this transaction group was doing a lot more, and they did some of the bigger. Robert Given did the biggest, most exciting land deals in the market over the last couple of years. And so rather than compete with him, we kind of joined forces. And when you add my numbers to his or this team, and even if we double count it, we've done over $1.6 billion in land that represents over 16,000 units. This is just in the last 5 years. Well over 1,000 acres, but sometimes it's an acre for, you know, $80 million or something. So the acres isn't necessarily important. And 16,000 units, and then in addition to that, there's hotel keys and retail space and what have you. But we've done, when we look at our land volume, we've done more than all of our competitors combined. Even when you count my old company, you double count my numbers, right? Because even though I'm gone, even if the company counts those numbers, and I'm counting those numbers too over here, they can have them, and we crush them. Yeah.
And a follow-up question, what's the average, like, time of escrow, or, you know, time to close a land deal? I know in the few cases I've had experience with, it's been like about a year and a half.
So most land deals, and this is germane to you guys who wanna be developers, and, you know, like you wanna do single family homes, it's gonna be a little different, right? Cause you're gonna go out and buy a single family lot, they're gonna want you to close right away,
Yeah,
right?
but sometimes, there's opportunity in buying like a larger parcel and subdividing it, so you gotta go through the whole entitlement.
I might have one of those coming out.
Yeah.
On the ocean, it's gonna be pretty pricey. So generally land, here's what happens. The development process is about creating value, right? So, build a building on it, you got a vacant piece of land, it's worth X, you build a building on it, it's worth the value of the building, right? And the value of the building is really predicated on the value of the cash flow. Or you buy a building that's cash flow producing and you can increase the rent somehow, maybe you fix up the building, or, you know, maybe you just, you know, time the market right, and maybe you manage it better, you create more cash flow, you create more value. So, there's a value creation tranche that happens between an unentitled site and an entitled site, right? And entitlements kind of fall into a couple of different categories even. Like if a site is fully site plan approved, meaning I can take this set of plans and build exactly that building, okay? So I know I don't have to go to the city, and I'm not taking any risk, okay, as to whether or not I can build this set of plans. So now I can underwrite this, I can figure out what it costs, I can project what I think my revenues are, and I can make an offer on the land, and I can do that deal, okay? As opposed to something that's just zoned, right? Let's say it's a 200 unit deal. Or let's take the one down, we just sold the site right over here for, where we're selling it right now, it's under contract. They're gonna do a 350 unit high rise, okay? But it's not site plan approved. So if I'm thinking I can get 350 units, but I don't know exactly what it's gonna look like, then I'm taking some risk, okay? Now, in a pure market, risk and reward is always gonna find a balance somehow, right? So if I'm taking more risk, I want more reward, I'm gonna pay less for the land. But sellers, they want full value. So generally what happens is that you tend to do land deals subject to approvals. So you as a developer are gonna put the site under contract, and you say, I'm going to design 350 units on this, but I'm not going to close until I get my okay from the city that I can do those 350 units. And then you're gonna pay for the full value of the 350 units as it's approved, because that, you're not gonna pay for the site until you get it that way. That's why land deals are often a year in the making, because they're often sold subject to entitlements. So you enter a contract, and then you as the developer is taking that stuff through the entitlement process.
And as a broker, you hold your breath for a year and a half.
Yeah, you hold your breath and you hope that it goes well, and you try and choose the right buyers that have experience and expertise, and that's part of what we do, right? Because here's the thing, here's a perfect example of, you know, where we add value. If you own a site, just one, say your family owns it, you said your family owns some retail centers. Okay, let's say one of these retail centers is ripe for redevelopment, and it's, you know, it can be a high-rise site or a mid-rise site. Okay, but in general in business, and this is not, I don't mean this in disparity, you're probably Joe Schmo, okay? Like you own a retail site, great. If a big company puts your site under contract, okay, and directly with you, okay, and they're gonna do 60 days due diligence, and then they're gonna go through an entitlement period, and they're gonna close, right? On the 59th day of due diligence, they might decide, hey, you know what? We don't think our numbers work, and we were gonna pay you 10 million, and now we only wanna pay you 9. Okay? They could treat you kinda like an asshole because you only own the one site, and they're probably not gonna cross paths with you and buy anything else from you. Okay? And you don't know if these are straight up guys and honest guys, or if they have the money or don't have the money, because that's not your business. So how do we add value? Well, we know. And if we represent him in selling his site, and a buyer acts like that with us involved, we're gonna remember, right? When that buyer wants to buy something else, we're gonna say, well, the last time you put us in a contract, this is how you acted, right? So we kind of instantly take our credibility and lend it to the seller. And then the other thing is that we know who's got money, who doesn't have money, we know how to act in other deals. What's that?
Who's active, like
Yeah.
who's actually doing stuff.
Yeah, who's active, right, because what'll happen is someone will come and beat in their chest, and they'll show you a portfolio of 15,000 units they built, and I wanna put your site under contract. But you're not necessarily in that business. Now, we're gonna ask different questions, like, well, yeah, but your whole portfolio is in the Northeast, have you ever built anything here? Right, we're gonna ask questions, well, how are you underwriting the site, what kind of rents are you using, what are you doing cost-wise?
What kind of windstorm insurance are you expecting to pay?
Exactly, so we're gonna ask those questions in terms of the underwriting, and that's the exercise you guys are gonna go under in Thor, right, in the Wynwood side. You guys are gonna take on this exercise of looking at the numbers. Well, we ask these buyers, what are your numbers? And not because we're probing and want something that's proprietary, but rather, we wanna know that it's responsibly underwritten, because if it's not responsibly underwritten, it's probably not gonna make it to the finish line, and then you're just gonna waste everybody's time. So, that's one of the things we do in terms of, you know, how do we know? So, more questions?
Troy, do you see yourself doing development in the future? So,
You what?
No, yeah.
Yeah, here, take this, and you go through both lobby doors, and make a right, and then it's on the right hand side. Maybe. So, you guys all wanna get out of here early, right? And we're 7:30?
Maybe not as bad as you, but.
No, I'm just asking, because listen, I'm free until midnight, you know, and if I wasn't with you guys, I'd be working. In fact, I still got some work to do. So, we're gonna talk about Wynwood, and then everyone's kind of reviewed that, and then do you guys know what the scope of your project is? We're gonna get into 3 groups, are you guys even aware of that?
Yeah.
So you guys know what your groups are?
Yep.
And we're gonna attack the project 3 different ways, you guys know that already? You just don't know what your specific assignment is, right? Let me ask you, how much questions do you think you have for me on this stuff? A lot? You got a whole list of questions? Okay, no one's pulled out like a whole notebook. I think this part of the class is gonna go pretty fast, so we'll take a little more time on this. So, do I see myself in development again? You guys, I'm gonna give you gold. Write this down. There's only 5 ways to make money in the real estate business. That's it. Only 5 ways. Let's list them. Who wants to take a stab? What's one way to make money in real estate development? Not the real estate business, real estate development. There's only 5 ways.
Entitlements?
That's one of the categories.
Born into it, you can marry it.
That's a different kind of. So, here's the thing. okay? So, there's the entrepreneurial act of putting a deal together, right? What does that mean? And let's talk about development in kind of the pure sense. I'm gonna build a building and sell a building, right? I don't care if you sell it as condos, lease it up as apartments, sell it, you know, do it as retail, lease it up as retail, you're gonna build a building, sell a building, okay? So there's the entrepreneurial act of putting a deal together. I drove by a site, hey, that looks interesting, I think project X would work there, let's see if we can put that together. Okay. We can hire an architect, we can figure out if it fits, we can talk to the city and understand that that's allowed to go there. We can kind of do the internal, like, preliminary machinations of what's gonna be there, like, let's take a townhouse, let's do something more specific. You see a site and you think it's great for 10 townhomes, and you think the market's there, and you think those townhomes are close to the water, you can walk to the beach, you can sell those townhomes for $500,000 a piece, and you think you can build them for $400,000 a piece. Okay, 25% profit margin, that's a profit margin, probably attracts some capital. Let's go do these 10 townhomes, $500,000, a $5 million project, and costs us $4, make $1 million. Okay? You see the site, you wrap it up, get it under contract. The entrepreneurial act, okay? That is something that has value, and then there's something that you can profit from if you create that value. Okay, that's one. The pre-development capital. Okay? This is the riskiest capital in the business. Okay? When you put that site under contract, you gotta hire an attorney. When you see if the environmental works on that project, you gotta hire an environmental engineer. When you hire an architect to draw the preliminary plans on that, when you're gonna talk to a marketing person, see if they can prove out selling those things at $500,000 a unit, right? You are gonna be spending time and money, okay? Let's pick a number. To really vet out a project like that might be 40 grand, might be 400 grand. Probably not 400 grand, probably 50 grand, pick a number, okay? So, but here's the thing. If you're wrong, okay, you flush that money down the toilet, it's gone, okay? Gone, gone, gone. You put the site under contract, paid an attorney $5,000, you did some studies, you did an architect, you went and met the city, and the city said, no way, no effing way are you gonna do that, we're not gonna allow it, not gonna happen, you're not gonna get approval, you're $15,000 in the hole, and you can't get that back. Okay, that is extremely risky capital, I don't recommend you spending it, okay? So that capital wants a reward, okay? And by the way, these 5 categories, they often go together, right? Someone does this and someone does this together, okay? So the entrepreneurial capital goes into the deal and it wants a reward, okay? The development act, okay? Have you ever hired an architect?
Nope.
Have you ever hired a contractor? He's not a developer, right? He didn't have the skills, hasn't done it. Have you hired an architect? Have you hired a contractor? Who's hired an architect and a contractor? You have, okay, so we got some development expertise in the room, okay? We got another group of people that are learning the development craft, right? The act of development is a skill, okay? And you need somebody who can execute a development and know that they can get your project from point X to point Y, right? That's a skill set, okay? You learn that at a Related or a Styles or, you know, another company where you're executing the development, okay? Because let me tell you something, contractors will eat your lunch, okay? Attorneys will overbill you, okay? Subs, marketing people, you go into a marketing person to sell like 10 townhomes like we're talking about, and they'll put together a $500,000 marketing budget for you. But if that doesn't work in your pro forma, then you can't spend $500,000, you need to get it done for $50,000, okay? So the development craft, the development act, the skill of developing the project is worthy of compensation, okay? So you can make money in development doing that. The real capital, okay? We talked about the development capital going into the deal, but there's also the real capital, meaning in the project the hypothetical project we just laid out, it's gonna be $4 million, okay? Based on our number before, let's say we need 60% loan, okay? That's 2.4, we need $1.6 million in capital. Real money. Who has $1.6 million? Anybody? Doesn't matter, okay? It's a rhetorical question. If you don't have $1.6 million, okay, or let's take it $100 million project, you know? Who's got $40 million? I don't have $40 million, okay? So the real capital's gotta go into the deal, and the real capital wants a reward, right? And here's the 5th one, the one people forget about. the loan guarantee, right? Who is going to secure the loan? Okay? That is risk exposure, and if you've got risk exposure, you want a reward, okay? So, in our hypothetical deal, that we were gonna build 10 townhomes, sell them for $500,000, it was gonna cost us $400,000 per townhome, we had $1 million in profit. So where's that $1 million in profit gonna get distributed? It has to get distributed in those 5 categories, right? Anyone think of a sixth? Am I missing something?
Broker.
Well, that's a cost of developing it, right? That's part of your budget. That's a service, right? Like that's your marketing person, you can pay your architect, you can pay your attorney, you can pay your contractor, you can pay your broker, right? All those people are gonna get paid. You don't get paid unless there's money left over, okay, as a developer. So, or as a loan guarantor. So how that $1 million gets distributed amongst the development skills and risk profiles, that's gotta pay everybody. Now, you take a related group or a traditional developer, they're doing the entrepreneurial act, they're putting the upfront capital, they're providing the loan guarantee, and they're providing the developer skill set, right? And then maybe they're putting their real capital in the deal. George certainly has a lot of capital. There's some deals he does without outside capital, but generally you go out and get outside capital. So he's making money on 4 of the 5, 4.5 sometimes, because sometimes he puts money into deals, right? So when you think about a development company, you think about that, they're making money in, you know, one of those kind of categories. So if you're gonna be in the real estate business, if you're gonna be in the real estate development specifically, you ask yourself, which of those 5 categories am I gonna make money in? What am I gonna do, right? So let's do process elimination. Who can guarantee, like, let's say it's a $100 million project now, who can guarantee a $100 million loan? Not me. Who's gonna put the $40 million capital in a $100 million development deal? Not me, okay? So, right away, you've got 2 off the table. Okay, now, you wanna build some homes, okay, so you're more bite-sized, you're doing $1.2 million home sale, let's say it's an $800,000 cost, $1 million cost, that might be a little more manageable, you know, who can go get a loan on $1 million deal, you know, maybe you're $400,000 in equity, okay, so I don't have $40 million, but we can swing the $400,000 to build your home, okay? So, and remember, when you own a development deal, you own a job too, right? Like, you're gonna go out and build a home, and it's gonna be a full-time job for a year, which it shouldn't, but if, let's suppose it is, and you're gonna make $100,000, well, you know, you can make $100,000 and not take any risk somewhere, okay? So, ask yourself, how am I gonna make money in the development business? You know, which of those things am I gonna do? What am I gonna learn? So when I went to Related, and I couldn't articulate the way I can articulate now, but I learned the development craft, right? The skill of development. And then in learning the skill of development, you're better at the entrepreneurial act. And hopefully you're making some money along the way that you might put into the upfront capital, although, again, I stress that's extraordinarily risky capital, you know? So that's just some food for thought about, you know, as you guys move forward, ask yourself, how am I gonna make money in this business, you know? Or how's the company I work for making money in this business, so that you understand kind of how you're fitting into it. Remember, even if you're at Starbucks, you're part of somebody's business plan. So whatever your job is, what's their business plan and how they're making money? You talked about wanting to be in you know, asset management, right? So their plan is probably to put the capital out. And your job might be to manage that capital, right? You probably aren't gonna sign the loan, you're not gonna put in the upfront money, you don't have the development skill, but you wanna hire the right development skill, right? You wanna partner with somebody who's got the right development skill, right? Make sure all those things are covered. So that's the thing, you gotta think about, like, if I'm in the real estate business, how am I making money in real estate? So, that maybe was a long-winded version of your question, but some important stuff in there. So, more questions? Any more?
What do you think of the cap rate bubble?
The cap rate bubble, wow.
I just coined that term in class a couple weeks ago.
I like it. Well,
Actually, I'm pretty sure somebody else said that, but.
I'm not so sure that, so for me, over the last 20 years, in general, cap rates have been compressing, but they've been compressing for a couple of reasons. And one of the reasons they're compressing is because the real estate business is becoming more efficient. So because it's becoming more efficient, we're modifying the risk reward curve. And if we're modifying the risk reward curve, then yields and returns should come down because risk has come down, right?
Is that somewhat the efficiency of the institutionalization of the industry.
Certainly for multifamily, I mean, what's happened in multifamily is, you know, 20 years ago, you wouldn't see multifamily, you wouldn't see major institutions want a multifamily, want a retail, want an office.
Right.
Now, multifamily's become a darling asset class, they all wanna have allocations in multifamily, so more capital's poured into the equation, and that's forced cap rates down. But I do think that we're becoming a more perfect market, we'll never be efficient, right? Like, think about you own a stock, you hit a button and you sell it, right? That's totally liquid. Real estate's never gonna be that, but, you know, look, we could be marketing a deal, you know, let's say it's an income deal, cause those are a little bit easier, but we can be marketing a 300 unit deal for sale, and a group out of Texas can be looking to buy it with debt out of New York and equity out of South America. And no one's set foot on the asset yet. And they can get pretty far into the process before someone gets on a plane to go look at it. Sometimes they'll make an offer without even there because they were on a plane 3 weeks ago, or they know the neighborhood. That's efficiency that didn't exist 15 years ago, pre-internet, you know?
It's information is so widely available now. I mean,
Yeah, so that's pushed cap rates down, so that's not gonna change. So, I don't know if we're in a cap rate bubble, I think we see cap rates move with interest rates, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a bubble. I'd be more concerned about the debt that we have as a country, and what that's gonna do to interest rates, and how those would kind of flow through the real estate market, you know? I mean, let's be honest, this election is a clusterfuck, and we're all gonna be disappointed, we should be embarrassed as a country that these are the best two candidates we could put out, you know? I mean, you know, we're all gonna go into that voting booth and do whatever we gotta do, and then we're gonna come out with our tail between our legs. You know, all of us are gonna be disappointed and should be disappointed, you know, so that's a greater concern to me than, you know, than any of that. The good thing is though, as our country, we can handle jackasses at the top, we've done it before, we're doing it now, we can do it again, you know? We can do it more often than we
What else is new?
Then we have good leadership, candidly, not to express my politics, but, you know, like I said, we're doing it now, we've done it before, you know, at some level, you know, we're gonna do it again, we're definitely gonna do it again this cycle, so.
And then you're concerned because of the trust factor?
Well, with our candidates?
No, the debt versus the interest rate, you said, yeah.
Well, look, you know, at some level, we all gotta live within our means, you know, you can't run a credit card, you can't live off a credit card forever, so, you know, to me, the relationship between GDP and our spending is out of whack, so that's just,
Right.
you know, it's a concern, you know, that no one seems to be talking about, so I'd be more concerned about that affecting cap rates. But you studied economics, so maybe you should be telling.
Well, you know, it's like, you have a mortgage, if you have a mortgage, it could be, you know, several times your annual income.
Right.
So, I think that we may be okay, but, I think at some point, you have to figure out where you're gonna start paying it back, cause you do amortize the mortgage, we're not amortizing really our debt, so.
Right.
We're just growing it, so, it's like negative amortization.
For sure. So, any more questions, or we're ready to move on to the Winwood site?
One other question, regarding the pre-development capital, how many times do you see, that stage being done where it's like a loser, you spend all the money for due diligence and then go at it again and do another deal, and is it usually 2 or 3 hits?
That's a good question, and I would say that we see it not as frequently as it happens, because, like, by the very nature of it, it would be happening a lot without us seeing it, right? It doesn't get to us until it's kind of more viable. And then we vet our projects, like, I don't wanna take on work, cause we get paid by per commission, so it's binary. So if it transacts, we get paid, if it doesn't, nothing, and all the time I spent on it's nothing. So we tend to look at the projects and say, do we think this is viable, or do we think there's a poison pill in here somewhere that could derail this deal and keep it from happening? So we see it less than it happens in the marketplace. I'm sure it happens all the time, every day, with varying degrees of money. But listen, remember, if you're in business, in real estate development, or any business really, you're gonna go out and kiss a lot of frogs, right? Like, that's what you're gonna do. I mean, we pitch a lot of business that we don't get, we give a lot of market intel to companies that don't have an assignment for us right now, and hopefully they have an assignment for us tomorrow, but they might not. So, that's part of my business, kind of factored in, right? We're not gonna win every assignment that we take to market isn't gonna transact, so at some point we kind of factor that in, right? I mean, you're an architect, someone asks you for some sketches on the site, you do some sketches, you don't turn in anything, you just gave away some sketches. You can live with that as long as you kind of factor that into your business. So, and every business has that, every business has a certain amount of sunk cost that goes into things, so, but yeah, be real careful with the development capital, cause that's, the front end stuff is just ridiculously expensive, and the money disappears, it evaporates, and you can't get it back, so I always caution, that. So, anything else? You haven't asked a question, you asked me a question, if you're not ready to ask a question right now, then yes, and when this next question is open, you have to ask me a question. What was your question?
When you do your due diligence, are you responsible for looking at the city's comprehensive plan? And if so, when you're looking through it, do you advise your clients if there's a special, variance that he can do?
Well, we're brokers, so we try and take responsibility for nothing. But we do develop an expertise, and so at some level it depends on the expertise of our actual, let's say it's a land seller, right? Because that's typically what we look at those things. So sometimes we're dealing with very sophisticated land sellers who are educating us, so they come to us and say, okay, here's the deal on this, here's what's happening, here's our land use council, here's our memo, and they can tell us with near certain clarity what the deal is. Sometimes we're dealing with completely unsophisticated land sellers and we're advising them, like, listen, here's what we think your code, what's allowable for zoning, what this is our read on it. We recommend you get a land use council and kind of write a memo that says this is what you can do. So it's a mixed bag. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Some areas are more defined than others. I mean, Miami 21 has brought a lot of clarity to Miami in terms of what can be done, what can't be done, but it's not perfect. There's a lot of areas that need, there's still questions, and that's what land use attorneys do generally. We're planners, right? There's a role for everybody to play. And so the answer is sometimes yes, sometimes no. And like I said, we develop a kind of nose for it at sophistication level, but it's not perfect. I remember here in South Florida, how many municipalities are there? It's like 60 municipalities or something. I mean, there's Miramar and Pembroke Pines and Hollywood and Cooper City, and I haven't got out of Broward yet, Fort Lauderdale, and, so everybody got their own rules.
Right.
So sometimes yes, sometimes no. So what was your question? You got a question for me?
No.
You still have a question?
I didn't have a question originally.
Well, I wanted you to have a question.
Well, my only question would be, my insecurity in this whole process is the numbers. I don't wanna ever get the numbers wrong or look like I don't know what I'm talking about when I'm trying to propose something to someone. So I'm not working full time in a job where I can sit there for 8 hours a day trying to figure the numbers out. So I guess advice on how to get better at understanding them, what to look at, what to read, type of.
Well, Miss Quiet, that's a brilliant question, and here's why. What's a pro forma? What's a pro forma?
It's a financial breakdown of the project is it gonna be feasible or not feasible?
Right, but the key thing is, it's what you think is gonna happen, right? It's a set of assumptions, okay? So the real validity of any pro forma is the validity of the individual line items of the assumptions, right? So, to your question about the numbers, okay? So, does anyone know Aubergine? Everyone heard of Aubergine? She's a developer in Miami, brilliant woman. She came out of Wall Street and then started renovating some old hotels and stuff like that. Bought up all these old hotels in an area that had crack dealers and hookers. But she figured out that if she bought all the hotels and stopped allowing them to be there, they wouldn't be there, and then the area could turn quickly. So she was a guest lecturer one time, and I wasn't there, I wish I was there. I think this is brilliant. So she came into a class like this, okay, and she had done a hotel, and I can't remember the name of the hotel. It's a popular hotel in Miami that's got cool care. It's kind of like the Wynwood section of Miami, cool hotel. And so she came in with a stack of napkins, okay, from the hotel. And she passed out napkins to everybody. And then she got to the front of class and said, if your deal doesn't work on that napkin, your deal doesn't work. And the point was, you could do a 50-page spreadsheet, okay, with every flippant assumption there is and every iteration known to man about what happens if interest rates do this, or this does that, or they have to put 10 nails in the drywall instead of 8 screws, okay? But never forget the basics, you know, I mean, generally, you never forget that this thing needs to be a 3 or 4 line pro forma. I got my revenue, I got my hard costs, I got my soft costs, I got my land costs, I got my profit, right? If you can't reduce it to that, okay, then, you know, always go back to that. If you can't reduce it to that, your deal doesn't work. And so you shouldn't be doing 20 spreadsheets to talk yourself into a deal. So, back to your question, how do you get better than numbers? The first thing you do is understand that they're all assumptions.